What's going on, everyone? Today we are talking undervalued wide receivers you can go out and get in your drafts right now over on Underdog Fantasy. Before we get into it, though, if you guys could, go down, drop a like on this video. I'm answering every single comment. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know down below. And subscribe to the channel. It is the #1 way to support me. It's completely free. But either way, let's hop right into it with the first player, and that is Juju Smith-Schuster.
On the run. What a pass. Smith-Schuster. Take it off down the sideline. He leaps over one defender before he's down at the 15.
And now I know what you guys are thinking. Sam, why are you starting off with such a disgusting name? This is somebody who has not been relevant for fantasy football since 2020 when he finished as the wide receiver 17. Well, let me tell you. First and foremost, this Patriots team is absolutely desolate at wide receiver position. I mean, we have seen this for years. For one, they let go of Jacoby Myers, meaning that the wide receiver 1 spot is completely vacated for whoever they like. And they brought in Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju Smith-Schuster was the only major acquisition they made this offseason. Other than that, in the depth chart, it's Devontae Parker, Tyquan Thornton, Kendrick Bourne, Kayshon Boutte, a 6th round pick. I mean, nobody of serious note. It is just Juju Smith-Schuster. And, well, yes, I think Mac Jones is not a great quarterback at the NFL level. I don't think he's even really a good quarterback at the NFL level. At the same time, if you were getting Juju Smith-Schuster at the price point he is right now, I think that is absolutely insane. His current ADP lists him as the 115th pick off the board on Underdog Fantasy, and he's outside of the wide receiver 50. And while yes, it is sad to see him losing Patrick Mahomes going to Mac Jones, the amount of targets Juju Smith-Schuster should be getting is going to go up exponentially from what he had. I mean, this is somebody who last season played 17 games and had 101 targets. Now, being the only mouth to feed in this offense, no more Travis Kelce, he should be somewhere in line to 120, 130 targets. Well, we should see a decrease in efficiency. We should see that more than made up for in the amount of touchdowns he had last season, only garnering 3 touchdowns, despite the fact that he had 3 seasons in Pittsburgh with more than 7 total touchdowns. Again, I am pretty concerned with the quarterback play in Mac Jones, but when you are getting a player like Juju Smith-Schuster, somebody who's only 26 years old, still in the prime of his career, I am absolutely fine taking a shot on him where he's going right now, again at pick 115. Not only that, this is somebody who was decently efficient last season, finishing with 1.93 yards per hour run, which ranks him 39th out of 114 qualifying wide receivers last season. So we've seen Juju Smith-Schuster be efficient as a good wide receiver. We even saw Juju Smith-Schuster have one of the most explosive year 2s out of a wide receiver that we've ever seen. I mean, having over 1,400 yards despite being the wide receiver 2 behind Antonio Brown. And, well, I'm not saying Juju Smith-Schuster will come anywhere close to what he was able to do in 2018. I do think that the ceiling is there for him to have an 1,100-yard season. And again, if you're getting him at the price point he is at right now, I am absolutely fine taking Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm grabbing him in a ton of leagues wherever I can get him, and I've seen him fall even further into the 120s, into the 130s. So I think Juju Smith-Schuster is a supreme value where he's going right now, especially in a range where wide receiver really is not that plentiful. I mean, most people are targeting running backs in this range. You can go out, grab Juju Smith-Schuster, be a little bit different. Hopefully, he's able to have an 1,000-yard season and make up for what you paid for him. Either way, let me move on to my next player, and that is Diontae Johnson.
On him. There it is. Johnson makes the cut and finds the end zone.
I know this is another name that I think a lot of people feel is pretty gross to the wide receiver position, but I'm here to tell you why Diontae Johnson should be highly targeted this year in fantasy football drafts. I mean, for one, his ADP is pretty cheap right now, coming off the board with an ADP of 57. Which puts him right now as the wide receiver 30 over on Underdog Fantasy. And on the surface, that might seem fine. I mean, the Steelers not really all that great of an offense. It makes sense. But at the same time, Diontae Johnson is somebody who is an absolute target machine. I mean, if you were to guess the top 5 most targeted players over the last 3 seasons, I'm sure some of the names that would come up would be guys like Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. And you would be right. But guess who's sitting right behind them in terms of total targets? I'm sure you guessed it. It's Diontae Johnson. Diontae Johnson, 5th in total targets over the last 3 seasons. This is somebody who's had over 140 targets each of the last 3 years. And we even saw that with Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett heavily targeted Diontae Johnson, and while that did not result in much production for Diontae Johnson, only averaging around 8 targets and 45 total yards, at the same time, we're talking about a rookie quarterback, somebody who really did not get his mojo on until about halfway through the season. They were starting Mitch Trubisky for parts of the season. I mean, we really did not know what was going on with Kenny Pickett. We should see a bump a year or two in the system from Kenny Pickett. I mean, it's really hard to be worse than what he did in year one. 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I mean, one of the most abysmal touchdown rates I've ever seen at 1.8%, behind guys like Zach Wilson, Baker Mayfield, Matt Ryan. I mean, this is bound to go up. Even if Kenny Pickett is not a great quarterback, this is absolutely bound to go up. It's really impossible for him to go any lower. I mean, it was the lowest touchdown percentage by almost an entire full percent behind Zach Wilson. So let's say that levels out to around a little bit below league average and gets to 4 or 5%. And that puts Kenny Pickett in a situation where he's throwing closer to 18 to 20 touchdowns. If that's the case, we should not see Diontae Johnson have 0 touchdowns again this season. I mean, first of all, Diontae Johnson getting 0 touchdowns, a complete anomaly. Something that I have never seen happen for somebody so heavily targeted. I mean, this is somebody who had 147 targets last season without a single touchdown. That is bound to change, especially considering historically Diontae Johnson has been somebody that has been able to get in the end zone. 5 touchdowns his rookie year, 7 touchdowns his sophomore year, and 8 touchdowns during his phenomenal 2021 season in which he finished as the wide receiver 8 in all of fantasy football. Well, we might not see a return to that level of form where he was able to reach 170 targets. If he is able to hit 140 targets, as he's done each of the last 3 seasons, we should see Diontae Johnson come into his own and have a very productive fantasy season, finishing with probably around 1,100 yards and anywhere between 5 and 8 touchdowns. And if you're getting that at the wide receiver 30, I am absolutely fine taking a swing on Diontae Johnson. We should see this offense get better. We should see Diontae Johnson's rapport with Kenny Pickett improve. And with that, we should see Diontae Johnson as a player become more fantasy relevant. Let's move on to my next player, though, and that is Marquise Hollywood Brown.
From the 43 of Indianapolis, Lamar loads up for Marquise Brown. Makes it look easy for 43. Grease, they go right over Bo Peep Keys for the touchdown.
And Marquise Hollywood Brown is one of the most divisive players to watch. I mean, on the one hand, he is a highlight machine. I mean, he got the name Hollywood for a reason. This is somebody who could take a ball to the house 60 yards. And this is somebody who's available for the deep ball throughout the entire game. I mean, you never know when you're going to get 14 points from a 60-yard touchdown to Hollywood Brown. But there are also some frustrating parts to Hollywood Brown's game that can make fantasy managers a little hesitant. I mean, first of all, this is somebody who drops balls consistently. I've never seen somebody drop so many wide open balls as Marquise Hollywood Brown. But if you can get over that fact, Marquise Hollywood Brown is a phenomenal player this season. I mean, for one, he's stepping into an offense with really nobody else at the wide receiver position, and we saw what he was able to do without DeAndre Hopkins last season. I mean, last season's weeks 1 through 6, so before he got injured and before DeAndre Hopkins came back, he was the wide receiver 6 in all of fantasy football, ahead of Jalen Waddle, just barely behind Jamar Chase, behind guys like Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, and Cooper Kupp. So he was in borderline elite level category before his injury, and then comes back, never really got the same footing with Kyler Murray. The team was tanking, and then Kyler Murray got injured. Things went supremely downhill from there. And yes, we don't know if Kyler Murray is going to be back week 1 to start the season. We don't even know when Kyler Murray is going to be back at all. But I have faith that Kyler Murray is going to be back relatively quickly. I mean, we've heard how well he's been rehabbing over the last 6-7 months. And not only that, I do think that this team is going to want to see Kyler Murray in action as much as possible. I mean, we do have a new head coach here, and a head coach that really has never gotten to experience Kyler Murray and who he is as a player. And if that's the case, they're going to want to get Kyler Murray out there to see who he is, to see if they want to spend the number 1 overall pick on a guy like Caleb Williams, or if they want to gear him up with guys like Marvin Harrison and build around him. I mean, we already saw with their actions that they did want to try and build around him, grabbing Paris Johnson in the first round of the NFL draft. I mean, I do think this team could be very conducive to Hollywood Brown being a great wide receiver, and we've seen him do it in years past. Yes, there are some things that need to go right for Marquise Hollywood Brown to finish above his ADP, but if those things happen, his ceiling is simply insane. That's why I'm going out and drafting Marquise Hollywood Brown in a lot of different places. Either way, let's move on to my last and most important player, and that is Amari Cooper.
3rd and goal from the 6%. Launches, touchdown, and Cooper was all by himself.
And I understand Amari Cooper is not a supremely undervalued, buy low kind of guy. He's going off right now as the wide receiver 17 behind guys like Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, and well, I would rather have DK Metcalf and T. Higgins over Amari Cooper. I don't think the gap in ADP should be as substantial as it is. I mean, right now, Amari Cooper coming off with an ADP of 33.6, whereas T. Higgins is going almost a full round ahead of him at 23.4. I think Amari Cooper is a phenomenal player, somebody who has delivered for you pretty much year in and year out over the last 4 seasons, only having one finish below the wide receiver 15. I mean, this is somebody who is very highly touted coming out of college with insane draft capital, and he has lived up to the hype. Not only that, we get the best quarterback of Amari Cooper's career potentially in Deshaun Watson. And now, yes, there are a ton of red flags with Deshaun Watson. I mean, this is somebody who's barely played football over the last 2 years. But at the same time, every single season Deshaun Watson has played, he's been nothing short of spectacular. I mean, we're talking about somebody who led the league in passing. We're talking about somebody who has consistently been a top 5 quarterback every single season that he's played a full season. We're talking about somebody who has been nothing short of spectacular since he has come into the NFL. And Jacoby Brissett simply was not that in this offense. I mean, this was a bottom 10 passing offense, finishing 22nd in total passing yards. With Deshaun Watson, we should see that take a step up, or at least be around the same. If it takes a step up, Amari Cooper will be phenomenal. But if it remains around the same, that is still fine for Amari Cooper. We still saw him be the wide receiver 8 in all of fantasy football last season. So I'm fine taking Amari Cooper as the wide receiver 17. I think he is being undervalued behind guys like Calvin Ridley. I mean, well, yes, Calvin Ridley, a great player in his own right, somebody who was dominant as a wide receiver 3 years ago, does not have the track record that Amari Cooper does as a phenomenal wide receiver. And that's why I think Amari Cooper is being undervalued as a player. He has the ceiling to be a top 5 wide receiver in all of fantasy football and a relatively safe floor, as we've seen from him over the past 4 seasons. I think the swing for the fences on Amari Cooper is more than justified. And I think also in these underdog drafts, it is very easy to go out and stack Amari Cooper with a guy like Deshaun Watson late in drafts, considering how late Deshaun Watson's going in the mid-80s. You can even stack up David Njoku, Elijah Moore, grab the full Brown stack. This is a competitive division, a division that will probably be in a lot of shootouts. I mean, you have the Bengals, you have the Steelers, you have the Ravens. And some of these teams are going to be swinging for the fences and trying to win these games now. So I think Amari Cooper is a phenomenal buy where he's going right now. Love Amari Cooper, love Diontae Johnson, love Marquise Brown, and love Juju Smith-Schuster. But let me know what you guys think down below. Do you guys think these guys are undervalued? Do you guys think these guys are overvalued? I mean, there's so many different perspectives on all these players. Fantasy football, it's an imperfect sport, so you really never know. Either way, though, guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It would mean the absolute world to me, guys. Thank you so much. Either way, hope you enjoyed the video. There are 2 more videos right here if you want to check out some other fantasy football videos. That's going to be it from me, though. As always, have a good day, a good night, and a good life. Peace out.